We're back. Adam Von Romer here. And you know who I am. I'm not going to run through all that stuff again. Today's lesson is what I jokingly call the bake-off. And literally, I've watched people like get weak in the knees, sweat profusely, and just about pass out at the prospect of presenting their listing pack. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you really get to shine and show the customer, why you should win the bake-off. And if you've already done all your homework in the first appointment, this should be like downhill skiing. It should just be a blast. So let's get started talking about the second appointment. Now remember, in the first appointment, we talked about going in and doing what? We established rapport. And remember I said that the reason why we establish rapport is people like to do business with people they like and trust. So the first thing we've got to do when we get back in is reestablish that warm, fuzzy feeling. Yet we talked about the kids or the occupation, or they might have taken a vacation or gone on a ski trip or traveled. And that's how you want to get back into that place. You want to re-enter that friendly rapport with them and relax the atmosphere. See, a lot of times people go in and they're all hyped up, and the seller's thinking we're going to try and sell them something, and it just creates a tense environment. It's very difficult to do anything really productive when you have an environment like that. So again, we want to reestablish rapport, get everybody back to the warm and fuzzy feelings. And I got to tell you, just like in the first appointment, the second appointment, I might spend 35 to 40 minutes of the hour talking about everything but real estate, just so I can release the pressure and, establish that buddy feeling again. Now, there's going to be a couple of different ways that you produce or present the price and terms. There's one that I call show and tell, and that's going to be for your analytics. Your accountants, your attorneys, they're going to want to see all the facts and figures and how you arrived at them. And then there's the classic type A personalities like me. I just want you to show and tell. How much is it worth? Okay, great. But here's how I do that. Here's how I tee that up. I say, listen, do you want the full encyclopedia version, or would you like the down and dirty? And usually they'll say down and dirty. But here's what's kind of interesting. When you do the down and dirty, and they start flipping through the pages, almost like an analytical personality, guess what they're doing? That's right, they're buying your presentation. They're buying your proposal. That's a good thing. And the other thing that a lot of neophytes in the commercial real estate business have a hard time with was when somebody says to them, well, I'd never sell my building for that price. And, the hair falls out, the heart starts palpating, there's chest pains, all that stuff. That's beautiful. That's exactly where you want to be. Because what have they just told you? They told you that they're going to sell. The only question that we have now is what? Price. And again, I told you in the last video, who are we going to blame? We're going to blame the market. So if somebody says, well, I'd like to sell it for $9 million. Say, listen, I'd love to sell it for $12 million, but it's not me, it's the market. And obviously it's in my best interest to sell your property for the most amount of money that I can possibly get. Unfortunately, the market indicates that the value of the property is somewhere between X and Y. And that's where I'd suggest that we put the property. Well, I want to put it at $10 million. You know what? That's certainly your prerogative. I don't recommend it, because if you put your property on at $10 million, people are going to use it as almost like an anvil to show their properties and show how much better a deal their listings are than yours. And basically what happens is your property becomes shop worn, and everybody uses it as the odd man out to make their value or make their property look more valuable. It's not in your best interest. And that's another habit I want you to start developing, is when you're overcoming objections, don't try and be logical. Don't try and, and sound like you're right off of a sales highlights cassette or something. What I want you to do is couch all of your answers in terms of why it's not in their best interest. Why the action or the path that they're suggesting we take is going to actually end up potentially costing them time and money. I want you to kind of park that one in your memory banks for a little bit. then ask for the listing. Now, I got to tell you something. In my humble opinion, most of the time, I would say about 90% of the time, they're going to ask you to list the property, especially after they've seen the amount of work, energy, and effort you've put into the proposal. And I mean, literally, I had a guy who told me, I'm not listing, I'm not marketing, I'm not selling. He's worth $500 million legitimately. There's no puffery here. And I said, well, let me do the proposal. We sat down, I went through the proposal. He looked at me across the table and said, what do you think I should do? I said, if I were in your position, I'd sell the property. And he said, okay, give me the papers. Honest to God, hand on a Bible. That came out of a $500 million heir's mouth at his living room table in his 22,000 square foot house. I think he knows a little bit about money and real estate. So he's actually asking me to list the property. And remember, I talked to you about that before? There's a huge difference between when you sell somebody something and they buy it. Massive difference. So we want to kind of get that warm, fuzzy feeling and get them moving forward with us. Then I want to talk about the listing triangle, and this is absolutely critical. And this is the hardest thing for neophyte agents to do. Ready? Price, length of listing, and motivated seller. If you have any two of the three, you may move forward and be successful. If somebody says, listen, I understand that I want $9 million. It's $1 million more than it's worth, but I'll give you a year listing to do it. Take the listing. If the seller says, listen, I'll give you 60 days to sell it, but I only want $7 million for it, and it's $1 million lower than the market value, take the listing. But if you can't get any two of the three, walk away. And I know it's the hardest thing to do, but you'll get a reputation for taking overpriced turkeys. And I got to tell you something, when that listing doesn't sell, the seller's not going to ever tell anybody it was their fault because they overpriced it. What they're going to say is that guy or that gal couldn't sell their way out of a wet paper bag. I gave them 6 months and nothing happened. Don't strap that one on. Walk away. It's tough, but get back into the sales cycle and find somebody you can do business with. I know it's hard to hear and counterintuitive, but you'll thank me in the end. Again, any questions, comments, or additional clarification, you know how to get a hold of me. Take some of this and put it to work today, and I'll see you in our next video.